Where the hell do you think you're going? My truck rolled to a dead stop. 3 black SUVs blocked my driveway like a border checkpoint. Orange cones, yellow caution tape, a metal sign, community safety checkpoint, do not proceed. A man in a neon vest strutted forward, clipboard raised. This road's closed. Safety inspection in progress. You're not authorized to enter. I gave him a slow, tired smile. This is my property. Before he could answer, a voice drifted from behind the vehicles. Calm, steady, dangerous. You boys got about 5 seconds before this turns into a real bad day, Marcus's voice. The HOA crew froze. One whispered, "That's the guy from earlier, the one who was filming." The clipboard man's face went white. "Sir, we have authority. Move your vehicles." Marcus stepped into view, phone raised. "Everything you did today is recorded. Every stake you planted, every fake box you installed, every lie you rehearsed. This is harassment," someone shouted. "No," Marcus said quietly. "This is evidence. And you just handed me enough to bury your entire HOA." The sirens started in the distance, getting closer. That's when I knew. 10 hours ago, I'd left for a simple supply run. Now, I was driving into a war these people had started while I was gone. I left the lake house at dawn with a list of errands and zero suspicion that by sunset, my driveway would look like a crime scene. The morning was cold and clear. Fog hung low over the water, turning Lake Travis into hammered silver. My coffee steamed in the truck's cup holder. Ranger, my old shepherd mix, sat in the passenger seat, head out the window, tongue flapping like a flag. Standard Sunday. Pick up hydraulic parts in Austin. Grab deck screws from the hardware store. Maybe stop at the feed store if I had time. Nothing special. Nothing worth remembering. I'd bought this property 3 years ago after retiring from the Army Corps. 22 years of building bridges and clearing IEDs and testifying in land fraud cases had earned me enough to buy 40 acres of Texas hill country with 800 feet of lakefront. No HOA? That was the first thing I checked. Second thing. Third thing. I'd seen what HOAs do to people, watched them fine veterans into bankruptcy, seen them weaponize bylaws like legal grenades, testified in cases where HOA boards forged documents to steal land they wanted. So, when the realtor said no HOA, never has been, never will be, I signed before she finished the sentence. That was 3 years ago. 2 years ago, Lakeview Shores HOA sprouted up on the ridge above me. 1 year ago, their president started sending letters, suggesting I grant community access easements, hinting at shared recreational interests, proposing I donate 50 feet of shoreline for a public viewing area. I ignored them all. 6 months ago, the letters got aggressive. Threats of enforcement actions, claims about historical pathways, warnings that non-cooperation would be documented. 3 months ago, her son and his buddies showed up drunk, trying to launch a boat from my beach. When I told them to leave, the kid shoved me. I didn't shove back. I just let him slip in the mud and faceplant in the shallows while his friends filmed it. The video went viral. Entitled "Rich Kid Gets Humbled by Lake Owner." His mother, Karen Duvall, HOA president, never forgave me. But this morning, driving toward Austin with Ranger and my coffee and my simple Sunday plans, I had no idea she'd been holding an emergency meeting at dawn. No idea she'd convinced her board I was the problem. No idea they'd been waiting for me to leave so they could turn my property into their personal project. All I knew was I had places to be. My phone buzzed as I hit the highway. Text from Marcus Cole, former Force Recon Marine, my closest friend, the kind of man who could read tracks in dust. "You home later? Got that water gauge you wanted?" I texted back, running to Austin. "Back around sunset. Swing by if you want." Didn't think twice about it. Marcus was the type who didn't need permission to wait on my porch. What I didn't know, that casual text might have been the only thing that saved my property from being dismantled, like evidence at a crime scene. Because 10 hours is a long time. Long enough for entitled people with fake authority to convince themselves they had real power. long enough for a HOA board to plan an ambush, long enough for Marcus to arrive early, see what they were doing, and start recording. While I was merging onto I-35, Karen Duvall was standing in her garage turned command center, addressing 8 HOA board members like a general briefing troops. I didn't learn about this meeting until later, but when Marcus showed me the footage he captured Karen's own security camera, left running by accident, it painted the picture crystal clear. 8 folding chairs, a poster board covered with Google Maps printouts and red marker annotations, a box fan buzzing in the corner, coffee thermoses, clipboards, the self-important air of people who'd never been told no. Karen stood at the head, mid-40s, blonde bob so sharp it could cut glass. She wore a pressed polo with the HOA logo, some kind of sailboat and waves and khaki capris that screamed, "I manage a summer camp," but it was her face that caught your attention. Tight, controlled, the face of someone whose identity was wrapped up in being in charge. She tapped her pen on the table. "We have a problem. The property owner refuses to cooperate." Cooperate. That was her favorite word. Always meant obey. A short man with a receding hairline nodded. "Board agrees. His land is strategically positioned. We need to establish community pathways." Another voice. "We've tried being nice. He keeps posting no trespassing signs." Karen's expression hardened. "He's blocking shared lake access." One board member, younger, uncertain, raised a hand. "But it's not shared. That's private property." We checked the plat maps. Karen turned her stare on him so sharply he shrank in his seat. "This isn't about property lines," she said coldly. "This is about what's best for the community. And right now, one man is preventing 200 families from enjoying the lake they pay HOA dues to access. Nobody mentioned that lake access wasn't included in their HOA covenants. Nobody mentioned the public boat ramp 3 miles north. This wasn't about rights. This was about ego. Karen had been embarrassed by her son's viral video, had been defied by someone who wouldn't play her games. And when people like that feel disrespected, they don't negotiate. They escalate. "Here's what we're doing," Karen said, pulling out a poster board covered with bullet points and printed satellite images. "We conduct a community safety assessment while he's gone." A woman frowned. "Assessment of what?" "Utility hazards. Environmental violations. Unauthorized structures." Karen smiled. "Document everything. Create a record of non-compliance." The younger man shifted uncomfortably. "That sounds like manufacturing violations." Karen's smile tightened. "It's called community enforcement, and it's perfectly legal as long as we're on HOA property." "But we'll be on his property," someone said. "Adjacent property," Karen corrected smoothly. "Buffer zones. Easement areas. Historically used pathways." None of those things existed, but said with enough confidence they sounded real. An older man with a beer gut leaned forward. "What if he calls the sheriff?" Karen waved dismissively. "Sheriff Bowman handles real crimes. Property disputes are civil matters. As long as we stay professional, nobody's getting arrested." She was wrong. Spectacularly wrong. "We set up a checkpoint on his driveway," Karen continued. "Show the community we're serious. Show him his behavior affects everyone." Gasps around the table. Not horror. Excitement. "When?" someone asked. "Today, while he's gone." Karen's smile widened. Safer that way. They didn't know Marcus would arrive 30 minutes later. Didn't know he'd watch them install fake utility boxes and plant survey stakes and rehearse their confrontation like amateur actors. Didn't know he was force recon, trained to observe and document and wait for exactly the right moment to strike. Karen wrapped up the meeting with a line that would later become evidence. "Remember, this is a peaceful demonstration of community authority. Stay professional. Stay calm." 10 hours later, 2 of her people would be face down in my gravel, handcuffed, while Karen screamed into a phone. Professional. Calm. Right. But for now, in that garage with her maps and her markers and her fantasy of control, she believed every word. They thought they were teaching me a lesson. They had no idea the lesson was coming for them. Marcus never rushes. 20 years in Force Recon taught him that moving slow keeps you alive. That's why when he pulled up to my property at 11 a.m., 3 hours before I'd get back, he stopped his truck 50 yards short. Something was wrong. The dirt was disturbed. Fresh tire tracks, too wide for my ranch truck. Too many of them, overlapping, circling like predators, marking territory. Footprints. Lots of them, clustered near my gate. Boot prints, sneaker prints, heel marks from dress shoes that had no business on gravel. Marcus crouched, brushing his fingers over the impressions. Recent. Within the last hour, he stood slowly, eyes scanning the tree line. Then he saw it. A survey stake. Bright orange plastic. Brand new. Stuck in the ground near my fence line. A stake I'd never planted. Marcus walked closer. More stakes. 6 of them, forming a line from my gate toward the lake. He checked the ground. Boot prints everywhere. Someone had tested a shovel here, shallow exploratory jabs into my soil. Then he saw movement on the ridge. A black SUV, windows tinted, engine running, watching. Marcus pulled out his phone. No signal this far from the highway. He typed a message anyway. Something's off at your place. Staying to check it out. Message failed to send. Marcus exhaled slowly. Then he moved into the trees, finding a position with clear view of the driveway and house, and settled in like a hunter in a blind. He didn't have to wait long. 30 minutes later, engines rumbled up the access road. 3 black SUVs, identical, all with Lakeview Shores HOA decals on the doors. Marcus raised his phone and started recording. 6 people climbed out wearing matching neon safety vests, the kind construction crews wear, labeled Community Safety Team in block letters. 2 carried clipboards. 1 had a tape measure he kept pulling out but never using. Another lugged a toolbox, and 2 men headed straight for my electrical meter. Marcus zoomed in. The first man opened the toolbox and pulled out a small gray plastic box. Cheap, generic, something from Amazon for $20. Put it here, he said, gesturing at the meter post. Make it look official. The second man nodded and began screwing the fake box to the pole, right next to my actual meter. Marcus filmed every second, caught their voices perfectly. Once this is up, we'll have proof he ignored a hazard notice, Karen said. Get photos from 3 angles. Make it look county issued. Are the stakes ready for the pathway? Yeah. We'll say he blocked a historical trail. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. This wasn't trespassing. This was fabrication. Premeditated. Intentional. And they were doing it while I was gone, because they were too scared to try it while I was home. One of the clipboard men turned, scanning the area. His eyes locked on movement in the trees. Sir? Can we help you? Marcus stepped partially into view, hands relaxed. Voice.com. Just passing through. The man frowned. This area is under community inspection. On private property? Marcus asked lightly. Temporary safety assessment. Marcus smiled politely. Good luck with that. He didn't challenge them. Didn't confront. Because confronting them would end the evidence gathering. And evidence was exactly what I'd need. Marcus turned, walked a few steps back toward his truck, then quietly slipped behind another tree. Hidden again. The HOA team didn't realize a Marine was documenting every move. They kept installing stakes, taking staged photos, recording rehearsed dialogue. At one point, the lead man checked his watch. All right, we reconvene at 5. He should be driving back then. Marcus's stomach dropped. There it was. The plan. The ambush. They were building a confrontation on purpose, counting on catching me angry, counting on video they could twist. Marcus lifted his phone and whispered to himself, You boys have no idea what you just signed up for. The team packed up, engines roared, dust rose. They disappeared back up the ridge. Marcus stayed behind, silent, studying what they'd left. Fake hazard box, survey stakes, disturbed ground, tire tracks. Then he checked the time. I'd be home in 6 hours. He whispered to himself, Get home safe, brother, because this isn't an inspection. This is an ambush, and Marcus stayed right there, hidden in the trees, waiting like a sentry for the moment I returned. The sun was dropping toward the hills when I turned off the highway onto my access road. 10 hours. Hardware stores, feed stores, traffic. My back ached. Ranger was asleep in the passenger seat. All I wanted was my porch, a cold beer, and the quiet sound of water against the dock. Then I rounded the last curve and the world stopped making sense. 3 black SUVs parked sideways across my driveway. Orange traffic cones dotted the ground in neat rows, yellow caution tape stretched between them. A metal sign leaned against a cooler. Community safety checkpoint, do not proceed. 6 people in neon vests stood around like they were guarding a crime scene. 3 had phones pointed at me. 2 stood in front of the barricade, arms crossed, trying to look authoritative. And sitting on a cooler, wearing a neck brace 3 sizes too big, was a teenager I recognized, Jason Duvall's friend. The same kid who'd been filming the night Jason shoved me. My foot eased off the gas. What in the hell? Ranger lifted his head and growled. Not scared. Alert. Yeah, boy, I muttered. I feel it too. I rolled forward slowly until my bumper stopped inches from the first cone. The lead man, clipboard in hand, gut hanging over his belt, marched up and slapped his palm on my hood. Stop. This area is restricted. I lowered my window halfway. Not for him, for the record. What is this supposed to be? Sir, he said loudly, too loudly, you cannot enter your property until this safety assessment is complete. My property, I repeated slowly. You're blocking my property. Sir, remain calm. He glanced at the cameras. We have detected hazardous utility violations. Until we complete inspection, entry is prohibited. I blinked. Prohibited. On land I own. Land my grandfather bought in 1962. Community safety supersedes individual property rights during emergency enforcement. I stared at him. You just made that up. Someone behind him whispered loud enough for the cameras. He's escalating. I hadn't moved an inch. Clipboard man squared his shoulders. Sir, refusal to cooperate will be documented as a voice cut through the air like a blade. Don't say another word to him. The HOA crew stiffened, not confused. Recognizing, clipboard man's face twisted. You. I told you to move along earlier. I didn't even have to look. I knew that voice. Marcus stepped out from the trees with the slow, controlled confidence of a man who'd survived worse on 3 continents. He wasn't rushing, wasn't posturing, wasn't even angry, just steady, calm, unshakably focused. He walked to my truck first, eyes scanning me like running a medical check. You good? Not yet, I said. But I'm getting there. Marcus nodded once. Then he looked at the HOA crew. Whatever thin confidence they'd built during rehearsal evaporated like spit on hot asphalt. Clipboard man tried to salvage authority. Sir, this is a restricted. Marcus cut him off with a look. I moved along. Then I moved back. One of the neon vests whispered, That's the guy from earlier. The one who was filming us. You're interfering with a community assessment. Clipboard man barked, volume rising with panic. Marcus didn't respond. Just stepped closer to the cones, hands relaxed, shoulders loose. The exact posture a Marine adopts right before someone makes the biggest mistake of their life. This isn't an inspection, Marcus said quietly. This is a blockade, and you built it on private land. He pointed at the barricade, the cones, the fake checkpoint sign. The cameras kept rolling. The kid in the neck brace swallowed hard. The wind picked up the caution tape and made it flutter, and in that moment, I felt it. The air shifting, the tension coiling, the last breath before the storm. Marcus planted himself in the middle of the gravel and said, quiet as a church, move your vehicles. You've got 5 seconds. They froze. 5. One of the younger men swallowed. 4. A second man hissed. Just hold your ground. Don't back up. 3. That did it. Panic snapped through them like a dry branch underfoot. Back it up! Back it up! Doors slammed. Reverse lights blinked. SUV tires spit gravel in every direction. Within seconds, they'd jerked their vehicles back just far enough to leave a narrow lane. Marcus didn't smile, didn't blink. He simply stepped aside and said, "Road's open." I eased the truck forward. You could feel the resentment radiating off the HOA crew as they lined the road, arms crossed, jaws tight, looking for any excuse to salvage pride. Marcus walked beside my door, steady and ready. Then it happened. Clipboard Man, the same swaggering little commander who'd been barking orders all day, suddenly snapped. He sprinted forward. "Hey! Hey! Stop!" "You can't," and shoved both hands into Marcus's chest. Hard, a mistake with a lifespan shorter than a firecracker. Marcus's right hand hooked the man's wrist. His left slid under the elbow. Hips turned. Whump. Clipboard Man lifted clean off the ground and crashed onto the gravel so hard dust rose like smoke. His clipboard skittered across the road with a metallic clatter. The rest of the crew froze. One man gasped. Another fumbled his phone. Marcus didn't advance. Didn't threaten. Just stood ready. "Don't put your hands on people," he said softly. "Especially not the wrong ones." Clipboard Man wheezed in the dirt. He attacked me. That's assault." Marcus shook his head. "Buddy, you shoved me, and your cameras caught every second." The man filming immediately lowered his phone. I stepped beside Marcus. "Battery on private land. Congratulations. That's jail time." Silence spread thick and ugly. Then we heard it. Faint. Getting closer. Sirens. Every HOA face went white. Clipboard Man's voice cracked. "Karen said she'd handle the sheriff," Marcus chuckled. "Looks like she ran out of magic tricks." Sheriff Bowman's cruiser rolled into view. No lights, no urgency, just the steady confidence of a man who dealt with idiots for 30 years. He stepped out, shut the door with a heavy thunk, and scanned the scene. The cones, the fake vests, the grown man crying on gravel, the scattered clipboard, the dust still settling. Sheriff Bowman exhaled once. Long, tired. Impersonating officers, blocking a county road, assault. He adjusted his belt. "You boys really woke up wanting jail today, didn't you?" No one answered. No one even breathed. Bowman turned toward me and Marcus, then back to the HOA crew like a teacher who'd walked into a classroom on fire. "Well," he muttered, "let's figure out which of you geniuses gets cuffs first." And as he walked forward, the whole ridge seemed to exhale. The woman who'd tried to weaponize a community had just run out of road. Sheriff Bowman stood there for a long moment, letting the weight of stupidity settle like dust after a stampede. The HOA crew stood stiff, eyes darting, looking for exits that didn't exist. Clipboard Man Randall, I'd learn later, was still on the ground, one hand clutching his shoulder, the other lifting like he expected help. Nobody moved. Bowman finally spoke. "All right, let's start sorting this mess." But before he took another step, Marcus cleared his throat. "Sheriff, before you deal with them, there's something you need to see." Bowman paused, side-eyeing Marcus the way old-school lawmen do when they sense a shift coming. "What is it?" Marcus unlocked his phone, swiped once, held it out. Bowman took it without a word. The quiet on that ridge went from tense to surgical. The first video played. The HOA crew installing the fake utility box, the cheap plastic housing, the bogus warning label, the coordinated effort to make it look official. Bowman's eyes narrowed. Marcus said calmly, "They were manufacturing a violation, trying to make it look like he tampered with county equipment." Another swipe. Next clip. This time, the teenager in the foam neck brace, standing around while a man clearly directing pointed and said, No, fall slower this time. Make it look painful. We need it to look real." The kid nodded, lifted both arms stiffly like a bad actor in a school play, then let himself tip sideways into the grass while two adults pretended to gasp. Then another clip, same kid, laughing between takes, eating a granola bar, while a woman explained, "When we file the injury report, make sure you mention head trauma." Bowman didn't blink watching any of it, but the stillness in his face changed, hardened. When the last clip ended, he handed the phone back slowly. The way a surgeon returns a scalpel after realizing the patient's sicker than expected, he exhaled once through his nose. Jesus age. Christ. The HOA crew looked like they'd just watched a judge walk into a confessional. Bowman turned toward them, voice deepening. You idiots weren't just harassing him. He jabbed a thumb at the phone. You were staging evidence, creating false reports, tampering with utility structures, plotting to frame a private citizen for crimes he didn't commit. His voice dropped lower. That's fraud. That's conspiracy. And that's a felony. Kevin's skinny guy with a walkie-talkie stammered. Sheriff, we didn't mean Karen. Said it was just a safety demonstration. Bowman stepped toward him so fast, the man stumbled backward. Boy, if you say the word Karen like she's some kind of legal guardian angel one more time, I'll cuff you just for being stupid. Kevin's mouth snapped shut. Randall, still sitting in dirt, tried waving his uninjured arm. This is all a misunderstanding. I can explain. No, Bowman said flatly. You can't. And you won't. He turned to his radio. Dispatch, this is Sheriff Bowman. I need 2 additional units, a scene tech, and the DA's investigator. We've got coordinated fraud, utility tampering, and criminal staging of injury. The HOA men went pale in perfect unison. Bowman wasn't done. Also, prepare a warrant request for Lakeview Shores HOA office. We need cameras, logs, communications, and any documentation tied to enforcement operations. The crew stared at him like watching a tornado head for the barn. Kevin whispered, A warrant? Bowman looked at him like he was looking at a stain. You think you can pull this level of stupid in broad daylight and I won't call the DA? The wind shifted. The ridge fell quiet. Then Bowman crouched beside Randall. You boys thought this was a neighborhood game, he said quietly. A little flex, a scare tactic. He held up Marcus's phone. This is organized fraud. This is falsifying evidence. This is weaponizing law enforcement against a private citizen. He stood back up. And in my county, we don't play with that. Randall's mouth opened. No sound came out. Bowman continued. Randall, you're under arrest for battery, obstruction, and conspiracy. Kevin, you're detained, pending investigation. Same for the rest of you. One of the older men tried stepping toward his SUV. Bowman snapped, Move, and I swear I'll add resisting and attempted escape. The man froze mid-step. I felt something release in my chest. A slow unclenching I hadn't felt in months. Marcus simply folded his arms, expression unreadable. Bowman walked back toward us, lowering his voice. You two did good. Recording all this saved me a month of headaches. When this hits the DA, that HOA's going to collapse like a rotten fence. I nodded. Marcus didn't, just stared forward like he'd already moved on to the next threat. Behind us, backup sirens rose in the distance. Closer, sharper, decisive. The sound of justice, not chaos. Bowman adjusted his hat, turned back to the trembling crew and said, All right, boys. Hands where I can see them. Line up. You wanted to play authority? Today, you get to see what the real thing looks like. And for the first time since the HOA war started, the Ridge finally felt safe again. We heard her before we saw her. A high-pitched whine from one of those luxury golf carts. Tires skidding on gravel. A voice barking words we couldn't make out yet, but the tone carried like a rusted saw, sharp, shrill, desperate. Karen Duvall. She came flying around the bend so fast the cart nearly tipped. Oversized white sunglasses. Lips pressed, bloodless. She slammed to a stop, dust washing over her like a curtain. What is going on here? Not asked, demanded. Like this was still her ridge, her lake, her world. Sheriff Bowman didn't turn immediately. He finished cuffing Randall first. Slow, deliberate. Then he straightened, adjusted his belt, and only then gave her attention. Afternoon, Miss Duvall. You picked a hell of a time to show up. Karen's eyes darted. Randall in cuffs. The other men lined up, evidence pouches on Bowman's hood. Then me and Marcus standing calm like we were waiting for a parade to end. What did you do to them? She snapped at me. I blinked. Ma'am, I didn't do a thing. Her voice jumped an octave. They said you attacked them, that your friend assaulted one of our officers. Marcus let out a short exhale that wasn't quite a laugh. Bowman stepped forward. Ma'am, these men aren't officers. They're not authorized by anyone. What they did was illegal, Karen scoffed. That's ridiculous. We were conducting a safety operation. Bowman's jaw twitched. On someone else's private property? Karen opened her mouth, closed it, recalculating. She straightened her polo collar, lifted her chin. Our HOA has authority to conduct wellness checks, inspections, and enforcement on adjacent properties. Bowman raised an eyebrow. Adjacent properties owned by HOA members. He pointed at me, is not one. That entire shoreline is community relevant zone, Karen fired back. It has shared recreational interest. Nope, I said calmly. There's a public boat ramp 3 miles north. You just don't want your residents walking. That's not the point. Yes, Marcus said from beside me, voice calm and deadly. It actually is. Something in Karen's face twitched when she heard Marcus's voice. Recognition. You, she spat. You're the one from earlier. You interfered with our assessment. Marcus didn't blink. I walked by. You threatened me. Karen stomped forward until she was practically nose to badge with the sheriff. Sheriff, they clearly assaulted my volunteers, and you need to arrest. Bowman cut her off. Ma'am, your people installed a fake electrical box, staged an injury, manufactured evidence for a false report. Karen's mouth fell open. That's absurd. Who told you I lifted my phone? She went pale. Bowman added, I've seen the videos. Karen's voice came out smaller. Those are out of context, Marcus chuckled. Lady, the only context was how to fake a neck injury. Bowman looked down at his notes. Your people rehearsed it, directed it, practiced lying, all recorded. Karen's lips trembled. They misunderstood my instructions. It was supposed to be a scenario drill. The sheriff stepped closer, voice dropping into that quiet, controlled register that scares grown men more than yelling. Ma'am, staging an injury is fraud. Tampering with utility structures is criminal. What your board did wasn't a misunderstanding. It was coordinated. Karen's eyes darted wildly. Then she found her footing. Not morally, manipulatively. You're only doing this because he, she jabbed a finger at me, is manipulating you. He's dangerous, violent. He hit my son. The ridge went silent. Marcus's head turned slightly. Bowman stared. I didn't move. Karen kept going, powered by panic. My son came home bloody, injured, terrified, because that man attacked him like some animal. Bowman didn't blink. Your son shoved him first. Karen froze. It's on video, Bowman continued. Both videos. Your son's friends filmed it for TikTok. Didn't work out well for him. Karen went red, then white. She tried to recover. I don't care what your videos show. I'm the president of this association, and I demand you arrest. Bowman raised a hand. Ma'am, that single word made her stop mid-rant. You're not demanding anything. You're about 2 steps from being detained yourself. Karen's jaw dropped. On what grounds? Obstruction, conspiracy, attempted fraud, directing a staged injury for a false report. And depending on what we find at your HOA office, he tapped his notebook, maybe more. Karen's breath hitched. Then came the meltdown. You don't understand, she screamed. This community depends on me. I keep order. I maintain standards. People rely on my leadership. He's ruining everything. He's ruining the lake! The lake is fine, I said quietly. Karen snapped toward me with a glare that could cut steel. You are the problem. You think you can hoard shoreline like some territorial dog? You don't belong here. Marcus took one step forward, small, but enough to make 3 HOA men flinch. Karen stumbled back half a step. Bowman raised a hand, this time toward her. "Ma'am, step away from them. Now." Karen refused. "No, I won't let him take our—" Bowman reached for his handcuffs. The metallic click echoed loud enough to silence her mid-sentence. "Miss Duval," he said quietly. "Turn around," Karen gasped. You can't arrest me." "You're right," Bowman said. "I can't," she blinked. He added, "But I can detain you pending investigation." And that broke her. She shrieked, cried, tried pleading, then threatening, then pleading again. The HOA crew watched in stunned silence. Marcus muttered to me, "Should have brought popcorn." I almost smiled. Bowman cuffed her gently but firmly, began leading her toward the cruiser. "Sheriff," Karen sobbed, "this isn't how it's supposed to go." Bowman sighed. "Ma'am, nothing you planned ever goes the way you think." As the cruiser door shut, you could feel the entire ridge exhaling. The woman who'd tried to weaponize a community had finally been stopped, but as the door slammed, I knew something else. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of her downfall, and the beginning of our fight to make sure it stuck. The next morning, Karen posted bail. By 8 a.m., local news had the story. HOA president arrested for staging fake injury, blocking private property. By noon, the Lakeview Shores community Facebook group imploded. Half the residents demanded her resignation. The other half insisted she was being framed. By evening, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Karen wasn't invited. I didn't attend either. But Marcus did, standing quietly in the back with his phone recording. The vote was unanimous, 9-0. Karen Duval was removed as president, effective immediately. 3 days later came the civil hearing. Judge Raymond Hardwick took the bench at 9 a.m. sharp. Silver hair, stone face, a man who'd settled more land disputes than all the lawyers in the room combined. Karen sat at the defense table in a stiff beige suit, hair wound so tight it looked painful. 2 board members sat behind her, heads down, trying to look important, but mostly looking terrified. My attorney, Sarah Morganfield, leaned over. "Remember, calm face. Let them dig their own grave." I nodded. Judge Hardwick shuffled papers, unimpressed. "Let's proceed." Karen leapt up like a jack-in-the-box. "Your Honor, before this begins, I request immediate dismissal on grounds of harassment, targeted discrimination, and Hardwick didn't look up." "Sit down, Miss Duval." She sat. Sarah stood. "Your Honor, we call Deputy Kyle Torres." The deputy described everything. The roadblock, the fake vests, the cones, the false claims of authority. Judge Hardwick nodded once. "Next." Sarah turned to me. "Your Honor, we have video evidence. Proceed." I stood as the first video appeared on the courtroom monitor. 4 HOA volunteers installing the bogus electrical box on my property. Voices crystal clear. "Just bolt it on. He won't notice. If the sheriff asks, say it's been there forever." You could hear the courtroom suck in breath. Karen's face tightened into a brittle mask. Hardwick wrote something pen-scratching like a knife. Sarah played the second clip. The room fell into stunned silence. There they were, grown men rehearsing a fake neck injury like a middle school play. "No, no, lean forward more. We need it to look real when he drives up. Brace tighter. You need to look hurt." Judge Hardwick slowly removed his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. Karen popped up. "This is completely taken out of con." "Sit down," Hardwick said without raising his voice. She sat. Sarah cued the final recording. The roadblock, my truck, their cones. The confrontation, Marcus's countdown, the shove, the takedown. When the screen went black, silence felt heavier than before. Hardwick stared at Karen like looking at a puzzle made of stupidity and arrogance. "Miss Duval, please tell me you didn't authorize this." Karen swallowed. I delegated enforcement to my committee. I didn't personally." Sarah stepped forward. "Your Honor, we have emails from Miss Duval instructing her board to, quote, pressure the owner until he cracks, and create recordable violations, even if we have to establish them ourselves. Karen's eyes widened like she'd been hit with a hammer. Hardwick blinked. Those words came from you? She trembled. They were taken out of context. I meant... Hardwick slammed his hand on the desk. No, they mean exactly what they say. Over the next 30 minutes, whatever scraps of legitimacy the HOA clung to evaporated. They had no authority over my land, no right to conduct inspections, no right to place anything on my property, and positively no right to stage evidence. Finally, Hardwick delivered the ruling. Effective immediately, Karen Duvall is removed as president of Lakeview Shores HOA. Karen gasped a tiny broken sound. The HOA is prohibited from contacting the plaintiff, entering his property, or conducting enforcement within 500 feet of his residence. One board member whimpered, and due to the gravity of this evidence, the court is issuing a criminal referral for possible charges. Karen went pale as plaster. The gavel hit wood, a crack so sharp it seemed to split the air. Karen slumped in her chair, staring at nothing. The board members quietly stepped away from her like she was radioactive. Marcus clapped me on the back. Well, that's one way to ruin her week. I didn't smile, I just breathed. For the first time in months, I breathed freely. By Thursday, the county courthouse looked like a stirred hornet nest. The criminal charges were formally filed: impersonation of public officials, conspiracy to defraud, tampering with utility infrastructure, filing false reports, coordinated harassment, accessory to assault, manufacturing fraudulent evidence. The mugshots were released that afternoon. Karen, still trying to hold her chin up, hair flattened from the holding bench, that twitch under her left eye. The board members looked like they'd been told Santa wasn't real. Sheriff Bowman told the press this wasn't a property dispute, this was an organized effort to intimidate using fraudulent authority. Georgia law has very little patience for that. By sunset, the HOA group chat leaked online. Screenshots of board members panicking. Delete old messages. Can we claim she acted independently? Anyone know a good lawyer? Too late. The state auditor arrived the next day. 3 investigators in gray jackets. Clipboards, laptops, evidence bags. They walked out with 7 boxes of financial documents, 2 computers, and something labeled Private Donations Ledger. That night, the HOA held an emergency meeting. 10 homeowners showed up. Half left before it ended. The minutes leaked within hours. Motion to dissolve Lakeview Shores HOA due to legal liability, passed 9-1. Karen was the one vote against from her jail cell. By the weekend, the signage was gone. The guard shack closed. The website went offline. Their last statement posted on Facebook read like a funeral notice. Effective immediately, Lakeview Shores HOA has ceased operations pending state review. People in town started calling it the HOA that self-destructed. A full year has a way of sanding down sharp edges. The lake looks the same. Blue, steady, patient. But my life feels different. Lighter. The HOA is gone. Clubhouse sold. Guard shack empty. Vines crawling up the siding. Nobody talks about Karen anymore except in hushed tones, usually followed by a slow head shake. The homeowners who stayed have been kind. A few stopped by when walking. Fresh honey, homemade jam, stories about grandkids, no forms, no notices, no fines, just neighbors. Marcus still visits every couple months, always bringing what he calls marine essentials, beer, jerky, and rusty old signs he thinks I'll appreciate. The last one read, Private Land, Peace Enforced Daily. I hung it on the boathouse. Tonight I walked out to the dock, same as I did the first week I bought this land. The boards creaked under my boots, warm from the day's sun. The moon stretched across the water like silver spilled from a jar. I sat at the edge, feet dangling over calm surface, and let the silence wrap around me. Clean, real, earned. No patrols, no threats, no HOA, just the lake, just home.